Hey guys, welcome to a brand new review series here on the channel. Today we are going to be looking at Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace Novelization, written by fantasy author Terry Brooks and based off of the screenplay by George Lucas. The Phantom Menace Novelization is, in fact, just a over-glorified version of the movie that we got, and it enhances it in some very unique and interesting ways, making it a great read for any Star Wars fan. And if you're interested, I highly say pick this book up and read it because I really enjoyed this one. Now, of course, it tells the story of the Phantom Menace, but with some new twists and turns of different things going on here, some great character development, and some great revelations and backstories to a lot of the Star Wars universe that is very unique for this book that we didn't get in the actual movie. Now, I've actually owned this book for many years now, but never actually sat down and read it. But my best friend had been reading the book and told me to read it, and so I read this thing in a few days, and I absolutely fell in love with Terry Brooks' writing style and what he was able to bring to this story, and it made me love the Phantom Menace even more. If you guys can't tell, or if you've watched my Phantom Menace movie review, you guys will know that I actually really do enjoy the Phantom Menace. I know it has its flaws, but I think it's still a fun, cheesy adventure film, and this book really enhances the experience and does something completely different. This is definitely Terry Brooks' baby, and he does some really interesting things in here that I think are worth talking about. One of those is, of course, Anakin Skywalker. Now, you guys that have watched Phantom Menace, you might know that he is just a whiny kid in it with, pretty terrible acting, but you don't get that in here. You don't have the acting. You just have the screenplay and what Terry Brooks brings to the table, and he enhances Anakin very beautifully, and I think he is definitely the best part of this book. You really get to understand and be with Anakin a lot more in this book. There are full-on chapters that are devoted to him in the beginning of the book. The book actually starts with Anakin's pod race against Sebulba the first time when he, crashes his pod, which is something that's brought up in the movie, and I think that was very interesting. We see his hopes and his dreams, and there's this incredible scene where he is strolling the streets of Tatooine at night and comes across a spacer from the Republic who talks about going to all the different planets, and that's Anakin's dream, that he wants to go out to the stars and see every planet. And there's this really great yet kind of cheesy line that the spacer tells Anakin, and he basically says that, your name is Skywalker. It's in your name. You were meant to walk the stars. And I just love that line. It's such a Star Wars-y line, but also it's fantastical, and I think that's really something special that Terry is able to bring to this book, because Terry is a fantasy writer, and he brings this fantasy-like quality to Star Wars, which I think is very unique and interesting, and it reads like a fantasy story, which makes it a very different read from other Star Wars books that I've read, especially in the new canon, which I'm more familiar with. But I thought that was really incredible. Anakin's relationships with everybody are definitely more enhanced, and especially with Padme. Now, of course, there's this problem in the movie where a lot of their dialogue is very awkward. That first scene with Padme and Anakin is jarring and weird with, him saying, are you an angel? And the acting is not great in that scene. But here it's played more innocently, and you get that kind of inner monologue with characters. Like, Padme is being playful with Anakin, and I think that makes the scene have a completely new context to it that I really did enjoy. and I think it really helps with Padme and Anakin's relationship a lot more. Also, things I like is the relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn. You really get this feeling that Obi-Wan is wise, but he is also rather reckless. He is a Padawan learner after all, and we get this really odd moment of Obi-Wan is kind of xenophobic against aliens that are of a primitive species. Like, I mean, it's mentioned sort of offhand in the movie where, you know, he talks about pathetic life forms, but really you get the sense here that Obi-Wan is kind of a racist towards Jar Jar in a way. It's not full front or anything, but it is interesting and adds something to his character that is very different and shows that he's not exactly, you know, the perfect Obi-Wan that we want him to be. And that's what this book does really well, is enhancing characters a lot more. Darth Maul is still kind of in the shadows. He's not a great developed character, but he definitely has a lot more to say and do in this book. He's got more banter kind of with Palpatine, which I thought was really interesting. And it's with that scene with Palpatine and Darth Maul that we get the first hints of something in the past. Like, this really delves into the mythology of Star Wars and delves into the past, where we get our first mentions of the Sith and even Darth Bane. Many people might not know this, but this is where Darth Bane was first mentioned and created, and I think it's done really well. We learn about the rule of two, and it's just very interesting that Terry Brooks was able to bring this mythology to it. Whether this is part of Terry Brooks's idea or if it was an idea that George Lucas discussed with Terry Brooks, I'm not exactly sure, but it is very well done and very interesting. Also, something I forgot to mention, another great scene with Anakin has to do with him finding one of the sand people in the dunes who is injured, and Anakin tries to help him and nurse him back to health, and it's a very sweet scene, and we get to see Anakin's compassion with other alien races, and because the sand people are kind of monstrous, but we see that the sand people are actually scared of people, like Anakin. I mean, this little kid. And I thought that was very interesting, and it also foreshadows something with the sand people that happens in episode 2, which I thought was very interesting. Now, the one thing that doesn't work in this book for me is Jar Jar, and I know he doesn't work for a lot of people in the movie either, but I actually kind of have a soft spot for Jar Jar, but reading the book, I've realized that Jar Jar is much worse in the book than he is in the movie, because a lot of that role hinges on Ahmed Best's performance, and when you don't have that, you just have this really awkward dialogue, and it just comes off as annoying to read, and it's just really worse on the page, and that is one of my biggest criticisms. But he isn't prevalent through the book too much, but it does hinder some scenes, and I will say that the book still has a lot of the pacing issues that the Phantom Menace has, but overall, I think this book really shows the epic scale of this story and really enhances it in a new and interesting way by developing characters' motivations, really getting to know and understand them through their inner monologues, through descriptions, through world building. And I think Terry Brooks really gave us a great Star Wars story from George Lucas. I love what he was able to do in this. Some of the things I'm even like, I wish that was in the movie. And I wonder sometimes what was a George Lucas idea and what was a Terry Brooks idea, because I think it's just really interesting, and it made me fall in love with novelizations, actually. I mean, I've read a few novelizations before, but I haven't really, like, given them much thought, but I've realized reading this book in particular that it can really enhance the experience. And now I watch Phantom Menace and I think of stuff in this book, and it just completes the package overall. Well, guys, with all that said, I'm going to give Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace Novelization, an 8 out of 10. Guys, if you're a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend you pick up this book and read it. It is absolutely a blast to read. It's easy to read, and it's a lot of fun. There's different things that will shock you, surprise you, and maybe even move you in some instances, like it did with me. But yeah, I say check this book out, and if you're not a lover of the movie Phantom Menace, I say pick this book up and give it a chance, because I think it might whet your appetite a little bit more and make you appreciate Phantom Menace a little bit more. But anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you. I hope you enjoyed this first installment of book reviews. I plan on doing this more as I try to evolve my channel. I'm a big nerd. I love movies, I love books, I love games, and I just really want to talk about all things, and this was something that I've really been wanting to talk about, but have been wondering if anybody would actually be interested. But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Look forward to more book reviews coming soon. I'm probably going to start reading the Episode 2 novelization, so maybe I could review that sometime, especially if this does well, or I might just do it anyway. But thank you guys for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.